There was a moment you cannot exactly locate, not a dramatic event, not a loud confrontation, not something anyone could write on a police report, just a shift. Something in the air around you changed. Maybe it was late. Maybe the house was quiet. Maybe you set your phone down and sat with a feeling you did not know how to name, and chosen one, you felt it. Not with your mind, with something deeper, that part of you that registers what the eye cannot see. You have been carrying something lately, something that does not have a name, something that feels like a warning, that arrived before the danger showed itself. That feeling is not anxiety. That feeling is discernment. And today, I need to tell you what God showed me about what has been happening in your atmosphere. You notice something. You notice that a certain conversation shortened. Where there used to be warmth, there was courtesy. Where there used to be invitation, there was silence. Where there used to be a seat at the table, there was a polite distance. And you told yourself you were imagining it. You prayed about it. You asked God to show you if it was real. And somewhere in that prayer, something answered, not with thunder, with a quiet, steady knowing. You were not imagining it. Something changed. And it did not change by accident. Chosen one, what you sensed is real. The unease you have been carrying is not weakness. It is information. God gave you eyes that see further than the surface. And what those eyes have been showing you is that you are not alone in this, but the ones surrounding you are not all on your side. This is what I need you to understand today. It was not random. 3 people, not 1, not 2, but 3, gathered in a place where you were not present. You did not receive an invitation. You did not know the time. You did not know the address. But heaven knew all 3. A conversation happened. A strategy was drawn. A decision was made about your future. And no one thought to include you. They reviewed what they knew of your weaknesses. They calculated your timing. They looked at your season and saw an opening. And here is what they did not know. They did not know that you are not where you are by accident. They did not know that before they sat down to plan against you. God had already sat down to plan for you. The meeting happened, but its outcome was never in their hands. Chosen one. This is not a story about your vulnerability. This is a story about your assignment. And the moment people gathered to remove you from a path, you will know you are exactly where God needs you to be. Chosen one. If you have ever felt that unnamed shift in your atmosphere, if you have ever sensed that something was moving against you before you had the proof to name it, type this in the comments right now. I feel it. Not for the algorithm, not for the view count. Type it because the spiritual realm is watching what you declare. Type it because your acknowledgement of discernment is the first act of standing your ground. I feel it. Stay with me, because what comes next is the part they did not want you to hear. I'm not going to minimize what this cost you, because being targeted is exhausting in a way that no one who has not experienced it can fully understand. It is not the pain of an open wound. It is the pain of something hidden, the kind that does not have a visible scar. So no one around you knows how deep it goes. You have been managing something in silence. You smiled in rooms where plans were being made against you. You showed up faithfully in spaces where your seat was being offered to someone else. You kept your integrity when abandoning it would have been so much easier. Chosen one that did not go unnoticed. Not by the ones who orchestrated the meeting, but by the one who was in the room before they arrived. Listen to what the scripture says. Psalm 37, verses 12 and 13. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming. God is not alarmed by this gathering. He is not scrambling. He is not calling emergency meetings of his own. He already knew this day was coming. and He is not afraid of it. And I need you to understand why you did not break. There is a man who understood the mechanics of opposition better than almost anyone in the last century. Not because he was a warrior, because he was a scholar who refused to look away from uncomfortable truths. His name was C.S. Lewis, Oxford professor, Christian apologist, a man who understood that the spiritual landscape is real and that refusing to name what is happening does not make it less present. And in one of his most revealing works, the Screwtape Letters, Lewis pulled back the curtain on how opposition operates. He wrote, "There are two equal and opposite errors into which our race can fall about the devils. One is to disbelieve in their existence. The other is to believe and to feel an excessive and unhealthy interest in them." Read that again. Two errors, two extremes. 1. Pretend there is no opposition. Dismiss what you sense. Tell yourself you imagined it. 2. Become consumed by the opposition. Let it define your days. Let the meeting be all you think about. Lewis is warning you against both. Chosen one. Your response to what happened is not to be dismissive, and it is not to be consumed. It is to be discerning, because a discerning chosen one is the most dangerous thing in the room to any force that wants to stop them. So let me tell you what discernment looks like in practice. It does not look like confrontation. It does not look like exposure. It does not look like gathering your own team to fight their team. It looks like this. You keep walking. You keep showing up. You keep being who God called you to be, with your head up, your feet steady, and your spirit unmoved. Because here is what they miscalculated. They assumed that a targeted chosen one would retreat, that the weight of opposition would make you smaller, that if enough pressure was applied in the right places, you would quietly step aside and make room for someone who was not chosen. But chosen ones do not retreat from their assignment. They are refined by the pressure. Every gathering that meant to remove you has instead positioned you, not because you are invincible, because you are assigned, and the difference between those two things is everything. Invincible means nothing can touch you. Assigned means nothing that touches you can move you. Read that one more time. Nothing that touches you can move you. That is not a feeling. That is a fact about where God placed you. Chosen one. I need to pause here for a moment, because if you are still watching, if this message found you in the middle of a season where people have moved against you, I want you to type something in the comments. Type, "I am not afraid." Not because the fear is not real. Fear is human. Fear is honest. And God does not condemn you for feeling it, but type it as a declaration. Type it as the moment you decide that the outcome of this season is not going to be determined by what they planned, but by what God purposed. I am not afraid. Let heaven witness that declaration right now. And while you are in the comments, type one more thing. Type, "Only God knows." Because here is the truth, chosen one. You do not know the full story of what happened in that room. You do not know every word that was spoken. You do not know every strategy that was formed, and you do not need to. The God who knows every hair on your head knows every word that was spoken in a room you were not invited into. He has not asked you to investigate. He has not asked you to uncover. He has not asked you to carry the weight of what other people chose to do in secret. He has asked you to trust Him. And trust looks like releasing what you cannot control to the one who controls everything. Only God knows, and that is enough. Now I need to tell you the part that changes everything. Are you still with me? Good, because this is the moment the enemy did not want you to reach. The meeting happened. I am not going to tell you it did not happen. I am not going to tell you the people were not real. I am not going to offer you a comfortable faith. that pretends opposition does not exist. It happened. The words were spoken. The strategy was formed. The decision was made. And then God spoke. Not to them. Not in their room. Not in their language. He spoke into the architecture of what they were building. And he said something they could not hear. This will not work, because before that meeting ever took place, before the first person sat down, before the first word against you was spoken, God had already spoken a word about you that none of them have the authority to undo. Listen to Isaiah 54, verse 17. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me. Not sometimes, not in the easy seasons, not when you are strong enough to fight back. No weapon. The meeting that was called against you is not more powerful than the word God spoke over you before you were born. There is a story in the book of Genesis that I need you to hold in your hands for a moment. A young man named Joseph. His brothers gathered not 3, but 10, and they made a decision about his future. They stripped him of his coat. They threw him in a pit. They sold him into slavery. And then they went home and told their father he was dead. For years, chosen one, Joseph lived inside the consequences of a meeting he was never invited to attend, a prison he did not deserve, a delay he did not earn, a season that made no sense from the inside. And then came the moment that every gathering against Joseph was building toward, without any of them knowing it. Joseph stood before his brothers, not in chains, in authority. And he said something that rewrote the meaning of everything. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50, Vers 20. Chosen one. The meeting that was held against you was held inside God's purpose. They thought they were closing a door. God was opening a corridor. They thought they were removing a threat. God was confirming an appointment. They thought they were writing the ending of your story. They were writing the setup for your elevation. What they built to stop you, God has already converted into the road that leads you forward. See? S. Lewis understood what it means to walk through a tribulation you did not design and did not deserve. He lost his mother as a child. He watched friends die in war. He lost his wife to cancer and wrote about it with a grief so raw, it became one of the most honest books ever published. A man who knew pain from the inside, and in The Problem of Pain, a book he wrote before that personal grief arrived, when he was still reasoning his way through suffering. Lewis wrote something I need you to hear today. God, who foresaw your tribulation, has specially armed you to go through it, not without pain, but without stain. Read that phrase slowly. Not without pain, but without stain. He is not promising that this season will be painless. Lewis does not deal in easy promises. He is saying something far more important. You will go through this, and when you come out the other side, you will not be damaged. You will not be disqualified. You will not carry the mark of what they tried to do to you. Not without pain, but without stain, chosen one. God saw this gathering before it happened. He saw every word. He saw every plan. And He did not stop them to protect your comfort. He armed you to go through it without losing your soul. The arming happened in the waiting. The arming happened in the silence. The arming happened in every season where you kept walking, when everything in you wanted to stop. You were being equipped for this exact moment, not in spite of the difficulty, but precisely because of it. So what do you do now? I want to be very clear about this. You do not retaliate. You do not expose. You do not gather your own counsel to counter theirs. You do not give them the satisfaction of watching you react in a way that costs you your integrity. Because here is what they are waiting for. They are waiting for you to flinch. They are waiting for you to stumble. They are waiting for you to do something rash that gives their strategy a foothold. Do not give it to them. Your silence in the face of their movement is not passivity, it is authority. Every day you walk in your assignment without collapsing. You are declaring something to the spiritual realm that no retaliatory act could ever declare. You are saying, I am not moved by what you built. I am not displaced by what you decided. I am not reduced by what you said about me in a room I was not in, because I was not placed here by any human hand, and I cannot be removed by one. Chosen one, keep walking. Not with anger, not with proof to gather, not with an eye over your shoulder. Walk forward, with your face toward the purpose God has not cancelled. With your feet steady on the ground, He has not moved you from. The path remains. It has always remained. Chosen one. I want you to make a declaration right now, not to the people who gathered against you, not as a threat, not as a performance, as a statement of faith to the God who placed you here. Type in the comments, I will not move, because you were not placed in your assignment by a human vote, and you cannot be removed by one. The path God set under your feet was set before you were born, and 3 people in a room, or 30, do not have the authority to reroute what heaven has already paved. I will not move. Type it. Mean it. Let the spiritual realm register it. Let me tell you something about why this happened to you. Not why it was allowed. Not why God did not stop it. Why it happened to you specifically. Because there is something you need to understand about how opposition chooses its targets. Opposition does not gather against people who are not threats. It does not invest time, strategy, and coordination into someone who poses no risk to its plans. The meeting was not called because you are weak. The meeting was called because you are dangerous. Not dangerous in the way the world means, not with power or position or resources. Dangerous in the way heaven means. Dangerous because you carry an assignment that, if it reaches its fullness, dismantles things that were built to keep people small. Dangerous because you have been placed in an exact position at an exact time for an exact purpose. And the forces that benefit from your silence know what happens when a chosen one steps fully into their calling. They cannot afford for you to move forward. So they met, and they planned, and they strategized. All of that effort, all of that coordination against you, and all of it, every meeting, every word, every strategy, was the most powerful confirmation you have ever received. That you are exactly where God needs you to be. Chosen one. You are not targeted because you are fragile. You are targeted because you are real. That is the difference. That is what they revealed. And now I need to ask you something honest. In the middle of all of this, in the middle of the shift you felt, the meeting you were not invited to, the weight you have been carrying in silence, have you been tempted to let go? Not of God, not of your faith in theory, but of the specific things God said to you, the specific words He spoke over your life, the specific identity He gave you before the opposition ever formed. Have you been tempted to quietly revise what you believed because the circumstances made believing it feel too costly? C.S. Lewis understood this temptation better than most. He wrote in Mere Christianity, and I want you to hear this slowly. Faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted, in spite of your changing moods. In spite of your changing moods. Not in spite of bad theology. Not in spite of new information. In spite of the way the season makes you feel. Because feelings are honest, but they are not always accurate. The feeling of being exposed does not mean you are unprotected. The feeling of being removed does not mean you have been displaced. The feeling that God has gone quiet on your situation does not mean He has stopped working on it. Chosen one, your moods will change. Your circumstances will shift. The evidence in front of you will sometimes make your calling feel like a dream that belonged to a different version of you. Hold on anyway. That holding on, that is not stubbornness. That is chosen one endurance. That is the art Lewis is describing. That is the one thing that separates those who receive their assignment from those who release it under pressure. Hold on. Chosen one. Before I bring this to a close, I need you to receive something. Not information, not more theology. Something God has been trying to give you through this entire message. The confirmation that you are who He said you are. Not despite the opposition, because of it. Because the opposition does not gather against the unimportant. It does not spend its strategy on the unassigned. It does not invest coordination into someone God has not marked. The gathering was a signal, and the signal was this: you matter. Your calling is real. Your assignment is active, and no meeting held in secret has the power to change what God declared in eternity. Type this in the comments now. I receive it, not as a wish, not as a hope, as the act of a chosen one opening their hands to the identity God has been trying to give them all along. I receive it. The protection, the assignment, the confirmation that the opposition itself just delivered. I receive it. Let me bring you back to the beginning. There was a moment you cannot exactly locate, a shift, a weight, a knowing that arrived before the proof did. And now you know what that knowing was. It was discernment. It was preparation. It was God giving you eyes to see what was moving in your atmosphere, so that when this message found you, you would be ready to receive what He has always been saying. Romans 8 vers 31. If God is for us, who can be against us? Not who will try, not who will gather, not who will meet in rooms and draft strategies and speak your name with the intention of removal. Who can be against us? And the answer, the only answer that has ever mattered, is no one. No meeting changes what God has ordained. No gathering undoes what God has assigned. No number of people in a room carries more authority than the one who placed you in the room of your calling before time began. Chosen one. The path remains. The assignment remains. The purpose remains. And you remain. Type this now, not to the comment section. Type it as a declaration to heaven itself. I am chosen, not because life is easy, not because opposition did not come, not because the gathering did not happen, because God said so. Before you were born, before they sat down, before the first word against you was ever spoken, He said so. And what God says, no secret meeting has ever been able to unsay. Go forward, chosen one. The road ahead of you is longer than the room they gathered in, and it leads somewhere they do not have the clearance to follow.